So here's how it all started. I remember the night pretty clearly, mainly because it was totally unplanned. My stepbrother Daniel's ceiling started leaking, like major water damage, and our mum was not about to wait on it. She called up a contractor, and boom, we're doing emergency renovations. I'm 18, and Daniel's 3 years older than me, so he's 21. We haven't really been close, honestly. He's got this whole model look going for him, all muscular and confident, whereas I'm a little more on the reserved side. Anyway, with his room out of commission, Daniel ended up moving into my room. My place is pretty small, so there was really no avoiding the whole sharing a bed thing. A little awkward, but we figured it was just temporary until the repairs were done, so we didn't make a big deal out of it. Just one of those things you don't expect to happen with your stepbrother, right? That first night, I remember lying there trying not to think about how close we were. It felt strange at first, having this guy I've looked up to so close. But as awkward as it started, it turned out to be the beginning of something I hadn't seen coming at all. So the first night sharing a bed was uneventful, but then came the second night. It was chilly, one of those early fall mornings where you can feel the cold creeping in. I woke up early, maybe around 6 a.m., still half asleep. I turn over and there's Daniel, completely relaxed and dead to the world, just inches away from me. Now here's where things get interesting. He looked, I don't know, different. He was lying there looking so peaceful, his chest rising and falling steadily, and there was this warmth radiating from him. I just kind of lay there, feeling that warmth and listening to his breathing, trying not to overthink anything. But it did something to me, honestly. Just being so close to him in a way that was, well, strangely comforting and even a bit exciting. I spent the rest of the morning in this weird, quiet moment of fascination, sneaking glances as he shifted in his sleep. Eventually, he woke up, completely unaware of any of this. He got up, stretched, and started getting dressed without a second thought. I watched him, half mesmerized, noticing every little detail like it was something new. I didn't think he noticed my staring, but there was this undeniable feeling inside me that I couldn't ignore. And then I went about my day, but the memory stayed with me. I knew I shouldn't think much of it, it was just a moment, right? But when night came again, I found myself almost eager to feel that same closeness again. I don't know what I was expecting, but that feeling, that warmth, it was like a magnet pulling me in. Little did I know, this was only the beginning. So fast forward a couple of days, and sharing this space was starting to feel different. Maybe it was because Daniel had been there every night, and that felt like a connection we hadn't really shared before. You spend years around someone, and then suddenly, you're closer in a way that changes things. It's weird how quickly that can sneak up on you. One morning, I woke up early again. Daniel was still asleep, sprawled out, totally relaxed and comfortable. I glanced over at him, not really thinking much of it at first. But there was something almost magnetic in that moment, the quiet, the comfort of just being next to him. I'd never really been in a situation like this with him before, and as I looked over at him, there was this realization that I felt closer to him than I'd ever thought I could. It was something about the simplicity of the morning and just being next to each other, like some unspoken connection had started to form. In a half-asleep state, I carefully shifted a little closer, trying not to wake him up, just enough to feel the warmth from his side of the bed. I was surprised at how calming it was, that sense of being close to someone without any barriers, without any expectation. It was like a kind of comfort you don't even realize you need until it's right there. But then, of course, he woke up. I froze, trying to act like I'd just accidentally drifted over, not wanting to make it weird. To my surprise, he just looked over at me, kind of half smiling in that sleepy way that people do when they're not fully awake. There wasn't any awkwardness, just this calm, knowing look. And then, slowly, he reached over and brushed his hand across my arm, like he was reassuring me. That simple gesture, man, it's like I could feel everything changing in that one touch. We didn't say anything, just looked at each other for a moment that felt like it lasted forever. And then, like it was the most natural thing in the world, he leaned in, and before I knew it, our lips met. There was this incredible warmth, this closeness that was almost overwhelming. It was a soft, gentle kiss at first, like we were both testing the waters, making sure this was real. But then, something clicked, and the kiss deepened, filling the air with a kind of electricity I hadn't felt before. It was like a flood of emotions, a feeling of connection that ran deeper than anything I'd experienced. In that moment, nothing else existed, just us, this quiet space, and the warmth between us. As our kiss lingered, I felt this rush of feelings that I hadn't really prepared for. It was like this soft, quiet barrier between us had finally dropped. Every inch closer brought a stronger feeling of warmth, comfort, and the sort of connection that doesn't come around often. It wasn't just about the physical closeness, either. It was the way I felt like we were fully understanding each other in a way that words hadn't really captured before. It was like that quiet acknowledgement, unspoken but unmistakably clear, that we were in the same place, feeling the same things. His hand found its way to my shoulder, fingers grazing along my arm in this gentle, comforting way. His touch was so deliberate, like he wanted to make sure I was as comfortable as he was. It felt like every move was meant to make me feel safe, understood. The sense of security in his presence was something I hadn't expected, but there it was, as real as anything else. Our breathing fell into rhythm, each of us matching the other. There was this natural, effortless kind of closeness, and it felt like a soft, silent conversation between us, an understanding that didn't need words. And every time our eyes met, it felt like he was seeing right through every wall I'd ever put up. In his gaze, I saw a softness I hadn't noticed before, like he was letting me into. As the kiss deepened, Daniel's initial gentleness began to shift into something more passionate. There was this intensity in the way he pulled me closer, and I felt myself responding instinctively, leaning into him, craving that warmth and closeness. Every gentle brush of his lips against mine felt electric, sparking a deeper connection I hadn't anticipated. But then there was a change. Maybe it was the excitement of the moment or the rush of emotions, but as we continued, I felt a surge of heat and urgency in his kisses. It was thrilling, almost overwhelming, and for a moment, it felt like we were both caught up in this wild wave of desire. I remember feeling my heart racing, the rush of adrenaline mixing with a tinge of uncertainty. In the midst of that excitement, there was a shift in how he touched me. He pressed me back against the bed, his body hovering just above mine, the weight of him a comforting pressure that made me feel both safe and exhilarated. But with that intensity came an edge, a mix of pleasure and the unexpected sensation of him being a bit more assertive than I had anticipated. It was a contrast. The gentleness we had shared moments ago morphed into something that, while still pleasurable, had a different kind of energy. There was a slight edge of discomfort as he moved, but I didn't pull away. Instead, I found myself reveling in that tension, feeling an unfamiliar mix of emotions. It was as if this new intensity was pushing the boundaries of our connection, bringing to the surface feelings I hadn't fully acknowledged before. Even though there was a slight bite of pain in certain moments, it was wrapped in a blanket of warmth and intimacy. Every time he leaned in, kissed me deeper, I felt my senses heighten. It was a dance of discomfort and pleasure, one where I learned to navigate the line between the two. Daniel seemed to sense it too, his hands gently exploring but also anchoring me in that moment, reminding me I was safe even as the feelings swirled around us. The connection we shared was transforming, evolving from something tentative to a raw, honest exploration of what we could be together. I remember losing track of time, completely immersed in this newfound intimacy, the world outside fading away as we found ourselves in this bubble of shared experience. Even in the moments that pushed against my comfort zone, I felt a strange sense of thrill, like we were both discovering parts of ourselves that had been hidden before. And as he pulled away slightly to catch his breath, our eyes locked once more, both of us recognizing the depth of what we were experiencing. There was a silent understanding that we were stepping into something new together, something that would forever change the way we saw each other. The next evening was one of those typical nights where everything felt normal, at least on the surface. Daniel had gone out earlier in the day, probably to hang out with friends or do whatever 21-year-olds do when they want to unwind. I spent my afternoon doing some homework, but honestly, I couldn't shake the feeling of what had happened between us. I found myself replaying those moments over and over in my mind, the warmth of his lips, the gentle pressure of his body against mine. It felt like a memory I wanted to hold on to, but I also felt this nagging uncertainty about what it all meant. When he finally got home, it was late, and the sound of the door closing pulled me out of my thoughts. I could hear him moving around in the living room, laughing with some of his friends, and for a moment, I felt that familiar mix of admiration and a hint of jealousy. It was like I was on the outside looking in, wanting to be part of that world, but not quite knowing how to cross the threshold. Then, after a while, it got quiet. I figured his friends had left, and soon after, I heard the unmistakable sound of the shower running. It wasn't unusual. He often took long showers to unwind after a night out. But this time, something felt different, charged even. I couldn't help but feel a little flutter of excitement mixed with nervousness. The door to the bathroom was slightly ajar, and there I was, unable to resist the temptation to peek. I tiptoed closer, my heart racing in my chest. I felt a rush of adrenaline as I caught sight of him through the cracked door. The water cascaded down his toned body, each droplet glistening on his skin. He looked completely relaxed, completely unaware of my gaze. There was a vulnerability to the moment that struck me, the way the steam curled around him, how the water flowed down his muscular back. I had seen him in shorts before, but this was different. This was intimate, and my heart raced at the sight. I didn't mean to stare, but I was transfixed, almost hypnotized by how he moved, how the water glided off him. It felt like I was witnessing something private, a moment that was just for him. I was drawn in by the sight, and I knew I should probably turn away, but the curiosity kept me rooted in place. Then suddenly he turned around. Our eyes locked for a split second, and I felt a rush of heat flood my face. He smiled, a knowing grin that sent my heart racing even faster. It was as if he had been waiting for me to notice him, to acknowledge that unspoken connection we had been building. There was no embarrassment, no shame, just this playful acknowledgement of the situation. In that moment, I realized he was fully aware of my presence, and I was caught between the thrill of being discovered and the warmth of the bond we were forming. After a moment, he stepped out of the shower, dripping wet, a towel slung casually over his shoulder. I quickly pretended to be on my phone, my heart pounding in my chest as he approached. I tried to play it cool, but my cheeks were still flushed, and I could feel the tension in the air. "You don't need to peek, you know," he said, his voice low and playful as he came closer. The way he said it was teasing, but there was also a hint of something deeper, like he was inviting me into this space we were starting to carve out for ourselves. Before I knew it, he was right there, standing next to me, and then in one swift motion, he tossed me onto the bed. I barely had time to react before he landed beside me, a playful grin on his face. I laughed, surprised and exhilarated. "What was that for?" I asked, feeling a mix of shock and excitement. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "Just wanted to remind you that you're not the only one with curiosity," he said softly. I felt a shiver run down my spine at the way he said it, the implication hanging heavily in the air between us. Our eyes locked again, and in that moment, everything felt charged with a new energy. There was a sense of playfulness, yes, but also an underlying intensity that was impossible to ignore. It was as if we were both standing at the edge of something deeper, something that had the potential to change everything we knew about each other. In that playful moment, I could feel my heart racing, a mix of excitement and anticipation coursing through me. I hadn't fully processed how close we'd become, but now it felt like the distance between us was melting away. I could see a flicker of desire in his eyes, something that mirrored my own feelings. It was intoxicating, exhilarating, and a little terrifying all at once. Without thinking, I leaned in closer, closing the gap that had somehow remained. I could feel the warmth radiating off him, that familiar comfort now mixed with a new intensity. Our lips met again, and it was different this time, more urgent, more electric. I was enveloped in this warmth, this sense of belonging, and I knew I was right where I wanted to be. As the kiss deepened, my senses came alive. The world outside faded, and all I could focus on was him. The way his hands found my waist, pulling me closer, grounding me in the moment. Every kiss was a silent acknowledgement of what had happened before, a confirmation that we were both willing to explore this connection together. But even as we lost ourselves in that warmth, I felt a flutter of uncertainty. What did this all mean? Where were we heading? Those questions lingered in the back of my mind, but in that moment, they felt irrelevant. I was caught up in the here and now, in the intoxicating connection we were building, and I didn't want to let it go. For the first time, it felt like we were both ready to dive into whatever this was, to explore the depths of what we could be together. The warmth between us was more than physical. It was a connection that felt raw and real, something I'd never felt before. And in that moment, I knew that whatever lay ahead, we were in it together. As we continued to kiss, everything around us faded away. No more doubts, no more questions, just the warmth and safety of each other's presence. I felt Daniel's hands moving, exploring the contours of my body, and it ignited something within me that I hadn't fully acknowledged before. It was a thrilling rush, a mix of excitement and nervousness, but mostly, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. His fingers brushed against my sides, sending little sparks of electricity racing through me. There was an urgency in his movements, a longing that mirrored my own. With each gentle caress, I felt that familiar warmth spreading through me, a sense of intimacy that was deepening beyond anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't just about the physical sensations, it was the emotional connection, the understanding that we were both stepping into something new and profound. I could feel his heartbeat as we pressed closer together, and it was comforting in a way that anchored me. It was like we were two parts of a whole, fitting together in a way that felt instinctive. The way he held me made me feel cherished, like I was someone special to him, and that realization sent a rush of warmth through my chest. As our kisses deepened, he began to shift his weight, leaning into me more, and I instinctively wrapped my arms around him, wanting to pull him closer. I could feel the heat radiating off his body, and it was intoxicating. It wasn't just about the physical closeness, it was about the emotional safety we had created together. The more we kissed, the more I felt that connection solidify, binding us in this unspoken agreement to explore where this could lead. His hands found their way to my back, fingers trailing softly along my spine. It was a gentle touch that made me shiver, igniting a fire within me that I hadn't expected. The warmth of his skin against mine felt electric, and I couldn't help but lean into him, craving that closeness even more. The way he pulled me closer was possessive yet tender, a perfect balance that sent my heart racing. I felt a flutter of nerves and excitement as he pressed his body against mine, the weight of him both grounding and exhilarating. It was a dance of give and take, where every moment felt choreographed by an instinctual need to be closer. I could feel the tension building, and with it came a mix of emotions: anticipation, longing, and a sense of liberation that I hadn't known I was missing. As we continued to explore this new territory, I felt him pull away slightly, his gaze intense as he looked into my eyes. There was a moment of silence, a pause where everything hung in the air, and I could see the vulnerability reflected back at me. In that instant, it felt like we were both acknowledging what we had stumbled into, the intimacy we were building together. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his voice a low murmur that sent shivers down my spine. I nodded, unable to find the words to express the whirlwind of emotions coursing through me. I was more than okay. I was thrilled, excited, and a little scared, all at once. But above all, I felt safe with him. He smiled, and that simple gesture made my heart swell. It was a reassuring expression that told me he was right there with me, ready to navigate this uncharted territory together. I could sense a shift, an understanding that this wasn't just a fleeting moment, but something deeper, something that could change us both in ways we hadn't yet imagined. And with that understanding, he leaned back in, capturing my lips again in a kiss that was even more fervent than before. There was a newfound urgency, a desire that felt both exhilarating and overwhelming. I could feel the heat rising between us, the connection growing stronger with every passing second. In that moment, it was as if the world outside didn't exist. It was just us, intertwined, exploring each other with a mix of tenderness and passion. I felt his hands roam freely, exploring every curve and contour, and I reveled in the sensation. There was a thrill in every touch, every caress, that heightened the intensity of our connection. As he leaned into me, his body pressed against mine, I felt a wave of pleasure wash over me. It was both comforting and exhilarating, and I found myself lost in the moment, giving into the feelings that surged between us. I could feel the rhythm of our breaths aligning, the way our bodies moved together as if choreographed by some unspoken force. Then, as if sensing the shift in the air, he pulled away slightly, his eyes searching mine for confirmation. There was something profound in that moment, an understanding that we were both stepping into something vulnerable and beautiful together. I nodded, my heart racing, as I felt the intensity of our connection deepen. Daniel leaned in again, this time with a gentler touch, but there was still that underlying intensity. I could feel the passion radiating from him, and it ignited something inside me, a desire to explore this bond, to take our connection even further. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him closer as I kissed him back with equal fervor, matching his urgency with my own. The world outside faded even more as we lost ourselves in that intimate space, a bubble where nothing else mattered. I could feel the warmth radiating between us, the unspoken promise that this was just the beginning of something beautiful. Every kiss, every touch was a reminder of how far we had come and how much further we were willing to go. One night, the world outside faded away, leaving only the gentle sounds of the house settling around me. I was nestled in a cocoon of comfort, the remnants of the day slipping away like whispers in the wind. Little did I know that the tranquility of my slumber was about to be disrupted by a force I had never anticipated. Hours later, I stirred awake to the soft creak of the door, a sound barely registering in my sleep-fogged mind. It wasn't until the unmistakable scent of alcohol wafted through the air that my senses began to sharpen. I opened my eyes to find Daniel standing at the threshold, illuminated by the soft glow of the hallway light. He was clearly intoxicated, his movements unsteady as he leaned against the doorframe. As he stepped into the room, I could see the heat radiating off him, his cheeks flushed and eyes sparkling with a wildness that made my heart race. There was a magnetism about him, a pull that was impossible to resist, and despite the circumstances, a thrill coursed through me. I felt a mix of excitement and trepidation, my body responding to his presence even as my mind grappled with the implications of his state. Without hesitation, he crossed the room, his intentions clear. I watched, a strange combination of exhilaration and unease washing over me. His body loomed large over mine, his size intimidating yet somehow comforting. There was an intensity in his gaze that ignited a fire deep within me, a primal urge that I couldn't ignore. I felt small beneath him, and part of me reveled in the sensation of being completely enveloped by him. As he leaned down, his lips found mine in a heated kiss, urgent and demanding. The moment felt charged, electric, as if all the tension we had been holding back exploded in an instant. It was intoxicating, this unfiltered connection, but there was an edge to it that sent a shiver down my spine. I could feel the weight of his body pressing down on me, and I surrendered to the moment, letting the sensations wash over me. But as the kiss deepened, I sensed a shift. The tenderness I had grown accustomed to was replaced by a fierceness that bordered on aggressive. His hands gripped my arms, his fingers digging into my skin, and I felt a wave of conflicting emotions crash over me. There was pleasure in his touch, a heat that ignited every nerve ending, but beneath it lay a discomfort that gnawed at the edges of my mind. His size was overwhelming, and I was acutely aware of the strength he possessed. It was intoxicating yet intimidating, a dichotomy that left me feeling both desired and vulnerable. I surrendered to the sensation, the thrill of being wanted, but the shadows of uncertainty danced in the corners of my consciousness. As he pressed closer, I could feel the warmth of his body enveloping me, a cocoon of heat and urgency. Every kiss, every caress sent ripples of sensation coursing through me, and despite the discomfort, I couldn't help but respond. My body ached with a longing that had been building for so long, and the need for closeness overshadowed my reservations. The warmth of his breath against my skin sent shivers of anticipation racing through me. I felt alive in a way I had never experienced before, the world outside slipping away as I focused on the sensations building within me. The mix of adrenaline and desire fueled the moment, blurring the lines between pleasure and discomfort. Yet, even in my haze of longing, I couldn't shake the feeling of being caught in a whirlwind. The way he took charge felt overwhelming at times, and while a part of me thrilled at the intensity, another part whispered caution. The heat of the moment wrapped around me like a blanket, but there was an undercurrent of something that made my heart race for different reasons. As he continued, I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, wanting him, craving that connection, yet grappling with the weight of his size and strength. The sensations collided within me, each kiss igniting a spark, each touch sending shivers down my spine. I felt exposed yet exhilarated, the raw intensity of the moment pushing me to the brink of ecstasy and apprehension. Daniel's movements were commanding, and I could feel the desperation in his touch. There was an urgency that drove him, an overwhelming need to possess, to claim. The warmth radiating from his body enveloped me, a cocoon of heat and desire that made my heart race. I was caught in the throes of conflicting feelings, a rush of longing and fear dancing just beneath the surface. In the depths of my being, I felt a swell of warmth rising to meet him, an instinctual response that tugged at my core. The closeness we shared became a paradox of emotion. I was both exhilarated and terrified, swept away by the intensity of our connection while grappling with the weight of the moment. As he pressed forward, the room spun around us, the walls closing in as the fire between us ignited into something primal and unyielding. I felt a deep yearning welling up inside me, an ache that pulsed in rhythm with the beating of my heart. My senses were heightened, every kiss, every caress igniting a wildfire within me that I had never known before. But with that heat came an awareness that kept me tethered to reality. I could feel the weight of his presence, the strength behind his actions, and a small voice whispered in the back of my mind, urging caution. I wanted this connection, this closeness, but the intensity of his actions felt overwhelming at times. The line between pleasure and pain blurred as I surrendered to the sensations coursing through me. Each moment was a dance of ecstasy and uncertainty, a whirlwind that swept me off my feet and into a realm I had never dared to explore. I lost myself in the warmth of his embrace, the fire of his kisses igniting every inch of my body. As the night wore on, the world outside faded further into the background, leaving only the two of us suspended in a bubble of heat and longing. It was a moment of passion unlike any I had ever experienced, a blend of tenderness and urgency that left me breathless. I surrendered completely, allowing the tide of emotions to wash over me as I succumbed to the warmth and intensity of his touch. In the aftermath, as the dawn began to break and the first light of day seeped through the curtains, I lay tangled in the sheets, a swirl of emotions coursing through me. The warmth of Daniel's body beside me felt comforting yet conflicting. I felt alive, filled with a mix of exhilaration and uncertainty, the thrill of what had transpired hanging in the air like a fragile promise. As I gazed at him, sleeping peacefully, I was struck by the reality of what we had just shared. There was a beauty in our connection, a raw honesty that spoke volumes about the bond we were forging. Yet, beneath the warmth, I felt the weight of what had happened, the tension of the night lingering in my mind. In that quiet moment, as the first rays of sunlight kissed my skin, I realized that our journey together had taken an unexpected turn. The emotions swirling within me were a testament to the complexity of our connection, and I knew that whatever lay ahead, we would navigate it together. The warmth of his presence beside me was a reminder that, despite the chaos of the night, we were bound by something deeper. The following evening was a swirl of emotions as I settled back into the routine of our lives. Daniel had come home after spending time with friends, and there was a relaxed energy about him that I hadn't noticed before. As I lounged in the living room, he popped his head in, a playful glint in his eyes. "Hey, want to join me in the shower?" He called, his voice light and tasing, but I could sense an undercurrent of something deeper in his tone. There was a warmth in his invitation that sent butterflies fluttering in my stomach. I hesitated for a moment, surprised by the directness of the request, but the thrill of sharing that intimate space with him was too tempting to resist. With a nod, I followed him to the bathroom, the anticipation bubbling within me. The sound of water cascading down the tiles filled the air, creating a soothing backdrop that set the stage for what was about to unfold. As I stepped inside, the steam enveloped us, blurring the edges of reality and wrapping us in a cocoon of warmth. The sight of Daniel, his body glistening under the shower spray, sent a rush of heat through me. The way the water trickled down his sculpted muscles highlighted every contour, making him look even more striking. I couldn't help but admire him, the intimacy of the moment sending my heart racing. Daniel turned to face me, his expression shifting from playful to something more serious. "I've been thinking about us," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, the sound almost drowned out by the water. The vulnerability in his eyes caught me off guard. This was more than just a casual invitation. It was an exploration of the bond we had begun to forge. I stepped closer, feeling the warmth radiating off him, and as the water cascaded down our bodies, it felt like everything around us faded into the background. My pulse quickened as he reached out, brushing his fingertips against my arm. The The simple gesture ignited a spark between us, the warmth of his touch lingering long after he pulled away. There was an electric tension in the air, a magnetic pull that drew us together. I felt myself leaning in, wanting to close the distance that remained between us. It was as if the steam had blurred the lines of our relationship, allowing us to step into a realm where our emotions could freely intertwine. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked, his voice laced with genuine concern. I could see the conflict in his eyes, a mixture of desire and hesitation. The gravity of the moment weighed heavily on both of us. I took a deep breath, my heart racing at the prospect of what lay ahead. "Yes," I replied, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of feelings inside me. The warmth of the moment urged me forward, the thrill of what we were about to share sparking a fire within me. As our lips met, the kiss felt like a crescendo, a culmination of all the tension that had been building between us. The warmth of the water mingled with the heat of our bodies, and I could feel every nerve ending come alive in response to his touch. It was soft at first, a gentle exploration of one another, and the world outside melted away as we lost ourselves in the moment. But the intensity began to shift as Daniel deepened the kiss, his hands roaming my back, pulling me closer. There was an urgency in his movements, a desire that felt overwhelming yet comforting. The connection between us felt palpable, and I surrendered to it completely. I wanted to feel every inch of him, to explore the depths of our intimacy. As our bodies pressed against each other, I felt the slick warmth of the water cascading over us, heightening every sensation. It was intoxicating, the combination of heat and the thrill of being so close. I could feel Daniel's heartbeat echoing in rhythm with mine, a steady drum that resonated with the intensity of our connection. The world outside was forgotten. It was just the two of us, lost in this moment of vulnerability and warmth. The way he held me, strong yet tender, filled me with a sense of safety that I had never known before. I could feel his breath hitch as our kisses grew more passionate, each one igniting a fire within me that demanded to be quenched. Yet, even in the midst of our passion, I could sense Daniel's carefulness. There was an unspoken understanding between us, a mutual respect for each other's boundaries that anchored the intensity of the moment. I could see in his eyes that he wanted to explore, to push boundaries, but there was also a softness that reminded me of the trust we were building. As the shower continued to flow around us, I found myself surrendering to the sensations, the heat of the moment wrapping around us like a warm embrace. Every touch, every kiss felt like a step deeper into uncharted territory, and the thrill of it all sent shivers down my spine. In that steamy sanctuary, we became lost in each other, the outside world completely forgotten. Our kisses were like poetry, flowing and merging in a dance of connection and desire. The warmth of the water cascaded down our bodies, enhancing every sensation as we explored the depths of our intimacy together. The air grew thick with the steam of the shower, our bodies entwined as we moved together in perfect harmony. I could feel Daniel's heartbeat quicken in response to my touch, the excitement electrifying the air between us. Each caress felt like a promise, a whispered secret shared in the intimacy of the moment. Time seemed to stretch as we surrendered to the rhythm of our bodies, a dance that felt both exhilarating and grounding. I could feel Daniel's hands exploring my back, tracing gentle patterns that sent sparks of pleasure coursing through me. The connection we shared was intense, and every kiss felt like a leap deeper into the unknown. As we moved together under the warm spray, I realized that this moment was a turning point for us. It was no longer just about desire. It was about the connection we were building, the trust we were cultivating. Every touch was filled with emotion, a testament to the bond we had forged, and I felt a profound sense of gratitude for this experience we were sharing. The water continued to flow around us, and in that intimate cocoon, I could feel the world outside fade away. It was just Daniel and me, two souls entwined in a moment that felt both electric and serene. I surrendered to the sensations, allowing the warmth of the moment to wash over me, filling me with a sense of peace and belonging that I had never known before. As our kisses deepened, I could feel the intensity of our connection enveloping us like a warm blanket. Every brush of his skin against mine sent waves of warmth coursing through me, igniting every nerve ending. It was exhilarating, and I couldn't help but lose myself in the heat of the moment. Eventually, as the steam began to settle and the water cooled, we found ourselves pulling away, breaths mingling in the air as we gazed into each other's eyes. there was a newfound understanding between us, a recognition of the bond we had begun to forge in that small, steamy space. We had crossed a threshold, stepping into a realm of connection that was both thrilling and profound. In that moment, I knew that whatever lay ahead for us, we would navigate it together. The warmth of Daniel's body beside me was a reminder of the journey we had embarked on, and I felt a swell of hope for the future, a future where our emotions intertwined, creating a tapestry of trust, passion, and intimacy that was uniquely ours. As the weeks went by, something shifted between Daniel and me. It wasn't anything dramatic or painful, more like a quiet understanding that had been there all along, finally finding its voice. We both knew that what we had shared was unique, something that didn't necessarily fit into the everyday rhythms of life. It had been a fleeting connection, raw and real, like stepping into each other's lives for a season. One evening, Daniel and I sat on the balcony after a long day, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. We talked about everything, the good memories, the awkward beginnings, and how much we had changed since that first night together. There was no sadness, only a deep sense of gratitude that we had been part of each other's lives in a way that few people ever experience. Eventually, it was Daniel who voiced what we'd both been feeling. "I think it's time we move on," he said, his tone soft but steady. "I mean, we'll always be close, but maybe we each need something different now." And he was right. We had reached a point where staying intertwined could have made things complicated, maybe even kept us from growing in ways we needed to. It felt strange at first, letting go of something so intense, something that had meant so much to both of us. But there was also a kind of relief, like we were finally giving each other permission to look forward instead of back. We made a quiet promise to each other that night. No regrets, no what-ifs, just an acknowledgement of what we'd shared and the freedom to find happiness wherever it may lie next. Not long after that, we each found our way to new relationships. I met someone who made me feel seen and appreciated in ways I hadn't even realized I needed, and Daniel did too. There was a sense of excitement in exploring a new connection, a chance to build something lasting with someone who brought out different sides of me. I think the same was true for Daniel. We would cross paths from time to time, but there was no lingering tension, no feelings left unspoken. Just mutual respect and, of course, fond memories. Looking back now, I realize that my time with Daniel was like a foundation, a space where I learned more about myself and what I wanted in a relationship. He'll always have a special place in my heart, and I think I will too, in his. We both moved on, but we didn't erase what we had. It's a part of who we are, and in its own way, it made both of us better partners in the lives we're building now. Even though we don't talk much anymore, when I think back to those nights, it's with a smile. It's comforting to know that no matter how much time goes by, some connections remain, tucked away in memories that no one can take from us. So here's to Daniel, to that chapter of my life, and to the friendships, the laughter, and the quiet moments that taught me more than I could have ever expected.